Right, hello boys and girls, I hope you're being good. I'm going to now go and do a object-oriented program using auxiliary methods. One auxiliary method. What is an auxiliary method, you might want to know? Well, you'll find out. Well, you have to find out, so you have to listen. Okay, to start off with, we have a program, main program, here it is. And what's this program going to do? It's going to take these three codes and test them to see if they can open a safe. Now they all have to be tested. The class that we're going to use is going to be called CLS safe. Well, underscore U, that is the unit, the way it was saved onto in the folder, same folder as this program. Remember, there's two units. Well, this is the main program, this is just a unit. And you can always open it by going to File and Open, and then you open it there. Alright, now in your exams you'll be given a class, or you might not be given a class, I don't know, but let's say you are given a class and it's there. This is a class with no function, there's nothing in there, you have to fill in, and this is the main program with no functionality at all. If you want to look at your textbook, I am doing page 28, little number 2 there, and it's basically looking at the example on page 26 and 27 of your practical textbooks, the ones that you took home with you, not the electronic book. It's not the electronic book. Okay, so in the class unit we have an interface and a type and an implementation. Okay, the uses is put there, just a different place to put it. You can either go there or go underneath this word interface. You know, we normally see it over here. There we go, we can put it there also, it doesn't really matter. This class is only going to use sysutils. You know, we could add dialogue and math if we want. First things though, we need to make sure that this unit, clsafe underscore u, that's the name that it's saved as, must be in the users section of this main program. So I'm going to go put it in the users section of the main program. Sorry, there we go. Oh, not that. clsafe underscore u. See, there it is in user section. Another thing we need to do in this main program, we need to have an object, a global object preferably, and we're going to call it objsafe, and it's going to belong to the class that's defined here, tsafe. Okay, so I'm going back to my main program. There you are. So now we have an object that's of that type. So here we go back to our class. Now you could be given the private fields. The private fields are like the data fields representing these three. It's normally the inputs to your program. And in this case we're going to have 3 strings. This is a very simple object-oriented program. I'm going to call it F code 1, F for field, F code 2, F code 3. And they are going to all be strings. Right. Change that up. Then in the public, this is where we put our methods that this class will use, and that, no, not this class, that the main program will use these public methods. And the one that we always have is constructor create. There is a built-in constructor, but we always define our own. And this constructor must have 3 codes that are going to come in. Guess where they're going to come from? Obviously the main program here. So there's constructor create. 3 parameters. It acts like a procedure, but it's called a constructor. And we're going to implement that now by highlighting it. Control Shift C. And now we can go and write the code for this constructor. And it's normally fcode1 equals scode1, not so. And fcode2 equals scode2. And fcode3 equals scode3. Where's scode 1, 2, and 3 coming from? Well, they're the parameters that are there. There you go. See them? There. 1, 2, 3. Scode. So in the constructor, you're always setting the private fields. The fcode1, fcode2, fcode3 equal scode1 and scode2 and scode3 respectively. Rightio. Don't worry about that. That's just a comment anyway. Now we are going to declare another method, and it must be what we call a get method. A get method or an accessor is always a function. What do you want to get? No. I lie. We don't want to do that. Yes, we do. We do want a function, yeah. A function that's going to return a result. And this result's going to be a true or false answer to the question as to whether or not the 3 codes can be used to open the safe. So let's go and call this safe open boolean. This function's not going to receive anything, it's going to work on the private fields there. And yeah, well, it's not actually, because in the interim we actually want this function to call a mother function. And this other function is going to do the actual work of testing the 3 codes. This one is just going to, check to see if all 3 are valid and then return the result. So this function is going to call another function which we call an auxiliary function. The reason why it's auxiliary is because it's going to be declared here first of all in private, although you could have it in public too, but there's no point. Public means that all of anything this main program can access these public methods. The main program can access the public methods, but if you put a method in private, then this main program cannot access them. Only the class can access it. So this is going to be another function, a get or an accessor method that is going to determine if a code, one code, is valid. So we're going to call it is valid code, and it's going to receive a string and return a true or false answer. So can you understand? This function is going to be used by the main program, but this function here in the private section is going to be used by this program. Any method can access that function, but is valid code cannot be accessed over here. So it's good to put it in the private thing. We call these auxiliary method here because it's going to be used by this class. So let's go ahead and do this one first, this auxiliary method. Fancy word for something quite simple, really. Highlight it and Control Shift C. Now we're going to go and check if the string that comes in here is valid or not. The rules for this particular program is that the code is valid whatever comes in here, S code, is going to be valid if the length is 10. Exactly. It has to be exactly 10. That's the first thing. So let's go and type that first. If the length of S code is not equal to 10, then we're going to say result equals false. That's the first thing that we're worrying about. Else, what are we going to do? We can't say result equals true. We first have to check it for something else. S code has to be checked for another property. That other property has to be is that it's 10 numbers, actually 10 digits in string format. And the reason why it's in string is so that we can actually do this. We can isolate each digit. We have to add up the first 9 digits, add them all up, get a sum for it. We can only access them individually by having it as a string format there. So to access each digit and sum it up, we are going to use a for loop going from 1 to 9, because there are the 9 numbers we must add up. And they are numbers. We will just convert them to integers each time we access each number. And we'll add it up in a loop, a running total, which is an integer. And we'll set that integer to 0, because we're doing a running total. And then we'll use our for loop to go through each character from 1 to 9 and sum up. So for loop needs a for loop counter. 1 to 9. Do our sum equals our sum plus. Don't forget we're working with this variable that's coming in here, this parameter S code, not S code 1, not S code 2, S code, not S code 3, S code, character number K. But of course I can't add up characters, I have to convert them to strings. Silly. Convert them to integers. String to int, and then we can go and add them up. Alright, so we've got our sum. Now, what we have to do is we have to find out if the sum of 9 character numbers, if it can go into the last character without a remainder. In other words, if the sum of the 9 digits is a factor of the last digit, we have to isolate that last digit. So let's go and put it into a variable. And we say our last equals string to int is code character number 10, because it is 10. We don't have to guess about that. After this test has been passed, then we know S code is definitely got 10 numbers. Has definitely got 10 numbers. Alright, now we have to find out if the sum is a factor of our last. So we say if our sum mod, our last, it's the sum, no, it's the other way around. Oh, I've got it wrong there. We have to find out if the last number is a factor of the sum. Yeah. So if our last mod our sum equals 0, so the 10th digit must be, the sum must be a factor of the last digit. That's what that is saying here. But I said it the other way, didn't I? R sum mod R last. What does that mean? That means if the sum, R last is a factor of the sum. That is actually the instruction. As per the book, the sum of the first digits must be divisible by the 10th digit without a remainder. So if the sum mod R last equals naught, that means that R last is a factor of I sum. With my little mistake I made there, I think you might have learned something. So, reading the instruction on page 26, the sum of the first 9 digits must be divisible by the 10th without a remainder. So if R sum mod R last equals naught, then we'll say result equals true, else result. We have to do this false. We have to have both options available. I know we set it false there. It has not been set properly. If you just say result equals true, because we don't know what the result could be, what the function value could be. We must make sure we give it a value there, else result equals false. So this result means this method's going to stop. Okay, as soon as you have result, then you know the function will end, and it'll go back to whatever method called it. We're now going to call this function isValidCode. How? We're going to call it using safe open. Safe open is going to check each one of these private fields. So take note, isValidCode receives S code. Okay, isValidCode is going to receive S code, and safe open is going to take fcode 1, fcode 2, and fcode 3 and send it to isValidCode. So let's go and write the safe open method. Highlight it. It's in the public section. Take note, it's going to be used by the main program. Good. Highlight, Control Shift C. Oops. Oh, I've got it there already. Okay. So what's going to happen is we're going to take fcode 1, fcode 2, and fcode 3 and send them individually to isValidCode. And we do it this way, and then we're going to get a result. So result will be equal to isValidCode, and you know that isValidCode stipulates it has to have a string parameter, so we've got to put in a string parameter there, fcode 1, and isValidCode fcode 2, and we use the AND operator, fcode 3, and that's it. It's taking fcode 1, fcode 2, and fcode 3 individually to this function called isValidCode. That can return true, that can return false, this can return true. And if any one of them are false, that AND stipulates that this whole result will be false. If all of these isValidCodes return true, then the result will be true. But if just one is false, the result will be false. That's what AND is going to ensure. And that follows the rule that this program has in the main program. Now this is the class written. That's finished. And we're now going to go to open safe, and this is the tricky part, using this class. And it's going to be basically 2 lines or 3 lines of code. And we're going to go and get the 3 inputs over here. In our button click event, we will go and store them into variables. Double click test code, and I'm call it SC1, SC2, SC3, so that we can have different names. I like to have different names. VAR. I want to call it S-code 1, S-code 2, S-code 3 because, yeah, we used it there in the parameter list of the constructor. Anyway, so now we're going to go and get these from the edit boxes, EDT code 1. Yes or no, we could have just used the .text property, it would have been fine. Okay. .text. Alright, so now the part that you always forget, everybody forgets, everybody, in the beginning especially, when you work with object-oriented programming, you forget how to call a constructor, and you have to use a constructor, and you have to use this object name to instantiate the object. This is the object, we're going to instantiate it this way, and this is how we do it. We say the object name equals the class name dot create, and in brackets, can you see the nice tooltips that come up there to help you? Is code 1, is code 2, is code 3, and there we go, is code 1. I'm now going to put SC1 in there, and for S code 2 I'm going to put SC2 in there, and for S code 3 I'm going to put SC3. Can you see I'm using these variables here, not those names. Alright, so there we have it. We've done that job. That was the most difficult part of all, and from here it's plain sailing. All we use is obj safe. Obj safe. Our object. We've instantiated with the constructor create and those parameters that came from the edit boxes. And now you never ever refer to these, you can't, because they're private fields. Anything in private you can't refer to in this main program. Now we are going to call this function safe open. Simple, because these are the only two we can use. That one is sitting in private. That is an auxiliary method. This function here we can use safe open, and it's a function. You must remember it's a function. I'm looking at the class. It's a function. It returns a Boolean data type, and we have to use it like we would use a function. So say if obj safe dot safe open, if that equals true, then we are going to display a message on panel. PNL result dot caption equals open sesame, else cannot open the safe. You cannot open the safe. You cannot open the safe. Something like that. Anyway. Right, I'll stop playing games or else. So, that is that, and I will put an activity in the Google Classroom. You need to try this by yourself. This program without looking at the video, and I think it's important that you do a program. Well, obviously not think. It is important that you do a program by yourself without any help from me. I want you to try it. You can do activity 7, number 1 on page 25, and I'll put the data files on Google Classroom. And I'll put these data files on Google Classroom too. Okay, keep safe and have a good day or good week studying.